Good morning slash afternoon, everyone, or evening if you're further away, time zone wise. And welcome to the new time for Halls of Horror. Today we're going to talk about the Canadian Ken and Barbie killers, which is one of my favorite when it comes to killer couples. But before I get into that, I wanted to explain a little bit of why I changed the day and time of when I do these streams. This is a lot easier for me, and I have more time to actually prep instead of on Tuesdays, I've got 2 hours to get ready and do whatever after work, so I ended up rushing and not having everything completely set up the way I'd like it to be. So with Saturdays, I can just pop in whenever I freaking feel like it. Did we lose? Did it die? Did it die? Are we back? Okay, we're back. Cool. Dope. We're back. Sorry about that. Didn't realize my VPN was still on. So I'm gonna start doing these 11 o'clock in the morning my time on Saturdays, just so that I can have a little bit more time to, talk to people, and there's not really anything else that's I'm competing with as far as I'm aware. So now that that's out of the way, Karla Homolka and Bernardo, the Ken and Barbie killers. Oh my. These guys. Oh, these guys. If I was going to pick out one of the most narcissistic, psychopathic couples, I would pick this one. However, I do believe that Bernardo is the main issue, the main narcissist, the main depraved son of a bitch of the two. Now, I say this because Karla Homolka was relatively a normal person prior to meeting Bernardo. She had a good family life as far as I'm aware. And so I'm not going to really touch on her just yet. What I'm going to do is go to Bernardo and talk about him first, since he's the one with the rap sheet and he's the problem child. So, Bernardo was born on the 27th of August in 1964 to his father, Kenneth Bernardo, who was a known child molester who was actually charged for it in 1975 and was known to abuse his own daughter, or Paul's sister. Where was Mom, you ask? Well, she was so depressed because of the abuse that was going on and how her husband was acting. She spent her time in the basement of their home. Yeah. So she basically secluded herself because she just couldn't handle what was going on. Even with this is how Bernardo was described as a kid by Nick Prawn, who's done a book on this particular couple called Lethal Marriage. He says he was, quote-unquote, always happy, a young boy who smiled a lot, and he was so cute with this dimpled good looks and sweet smile that many of the mothers just wanted to pinch him on the cheek whenever they saw him. He was the perfect child they all wanted. Polite, well-mannered, doing well in school, so sweet in his Boy Scout uniform. Have I not said before that serial killers like to portray themselves as being good? Here's case in point of that one. Even though that's the description, he apparently was already developing these really dark sexual fantasies about women and having the innate desire to humiliate women in public. He also was very into beating the women he dated in public. And here's another thing that made it worse. When he was 16, his mother decided to tell him that he was the product of an extramarital affair, that Kenneth Bernardo was not his dad. Kenneth Bernardo was not his blood. It was this other guy. And that pissed him off. That's when he started really going after his mom. He apparently hated his mother after that. And even with all this dark shit going on, he still had a good record in school. He still was able to get into a college, Sir Wilfrid Laurier College Institute in Scarborough, or he went there, and then after that, in 1982, he went to the University of Toronto in Scarborough. Yes, he definitely wanted the public attention for some sick sense of gratification, which most serial killers do, and that's their undoing. Is their sense of narcissism and their want to be seen. He also apparently worked for Amway during those times as a salesman. Hey, Xylee, how you doing, girl? I'm glad I can be of some entertainment for you while you're at work. It's great to see you. Also was apparently really, really into weird, eclectic kinds of books. He apparently really liked the get rich and famous expert books. The motivational books. He liked to study them, pick up techniques with his friends that he would go to in bars. Apparently, he was really successful, obviously. I'll show you what he looks like. He's a very attractive guy. Actually, let's do that now, for shits and giggles' sake. Let me pull up a picture of him. Paul Bernardo. Sorry about the clicky-clacking. He looks like a total fuckboy. Yeah, he's a total fuckboy. Absolutely. That guy. Ladies' man. Picks up all the ladies. Not shocking. Not shocked. Of course he's gonna pick girls up. But look at how, like, oh, wow. Look at this. This dumb shit. Oh, wow. He looks all kinds of fucked up when he got picked up. But that guy had no issues finding women. Logan Paul! You could say that. That'd be pretty funny. He's the Logan Paul before Logan Paul was even a thing. A thought. And around this time, this is where he started having issues. Although he met Karla in 1987, he had started causing problems around that time. And usually what he would do is he would stalk his victims as they got off of buses late in the evening and then sexually assault them there. Here is the list of known incidents outside of Karla. And this was when they were dating. They weren't married yet. They didn't marry until 1990. So, May 4th, 1987. Rape of a 21-year-old Scarborough woman in front of her parents' house after Bernardo followed her home. There's that humiliation thing. Oof. Big ol' oof. 10 days later, rape of a 19-year-old woman in the backyard of her parents' house. July 17th of the same year, attempted rape of a young woman. Although he beat the victim, he abandoned the attack when she fought back. So, yeah, he really likes to go after these. Oh, it gets worse now. It gets worse. September 29th of that year, attempted rape of a 15-year-old girl. He broke into the house in Scarborough and entered a victim's bedroom. When he jumped on her back, put his hand over her mouth and threatened her with a knife, bruised the side of her face and bit her ear. He fled when the victim's mother entered the room and screamed. 19 years old at the time, another person named Anthony Hannemeyer was convicted of the assault in 1989 and served a 16th month's prison sentence. Ooh, somebody else got caught, or not caught, got convicted of a crime they didn't commit in lieu of Mr. Bernardo here, the Scarborough rapist. Hannemeyer didn't get exonerated until 2006 when Bernardo admitted that he was the one that had the one that had the hand in the attack. December 16th, rape of a 15-year-old girl. The next day, the Toronto police issued a warning to women in Scarborough traveling alone at night, especially those riding buses. So they started to figure it out. This is when the whole Scarborough rapist thing became obvious. And this is how most criminals get their names. It's because the media tries to put a name to them, or they try to dramatize these things more than need be, and they stroke the egos of these people and give them names, and that's really what gets them off. Ooh, excuse me. Huh. Coffee hasn't kicked in. On the 23rd of December 1987, he raped a 17-year-old girl with a knife he used to threaten his victims. This is actually when he was starting to be known as the Scarborough rapist. So after the last crime he did in 1987 with the 17-year-old is when the media started calling him the Scarborough rapist. Oh my. Shake my head. Didn't do anything else until April 18th of 1988 when he attacked another 17-year-old girl. There isn't a lot of information on that one. May 25th of 1988, he was nearly caught by a uniformed Toronto investigator stalking out a bus shelter. The investigator noticed Bernardo hiding under a tree and pursued him on foot, but Bernardo escaped. Sounds like somebody ate too many donuts. Hey, Mello, welcome. Oh, I know they're twisted. I know very well that they're one of those twisted kinds. Where was I? May 30th, 5 days later. Rape of an 18-year-old woman in Mississauga, Ontario, which is about 40 kilometers or 25 miles southwest of Scarborough. He really likes them young, doesn't he, guys? October 4th, after a long break in 1988, he attempted another rape in Scarborough, but his victim fought him off, and he was able to inflict 2 stab wounds to her thigh and buttocks, which had to get stitched up. Yeah. Gotta love that. Not. In November, on the 16th of November, he raped a 18-year-old woman in the backyard of her parents' house. See, he has a pattern of doing this where he goes to their homes and assaults them in the place where they are supposed to feel the most safe. Does anybody notice how fucked up that is? That's a whole other level of fuckery. A whole other level of fuckery. And disgusting. This next day, the Scarborough Rapist Task Force was put together to try and get his ass. He attempted his next rape of a 15-year-old girl. No, I'm sorry. Back up a little bit. In December 27th, he tried again, and the neighbor of the victim chased him off. Oh, it's the most traumatic for sure. Hey, what's up, Ed? How you doing, man? It's good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. I'm glad you're doing okay. Saw some of the updates on Twitter. Really happy for you, man. Yeah, it invades not only your safety and body, but it makes the place where you're supposed to feel safe not safe anymore. So you're constantly in a state of traumatic fear. You're in a state of PTSD all the time, which fucking sucks. I would hate that. Oh god, I can't imagine. It looks like there's a really big gap in between that last attack and this next one, which was on June 20th of 1989. He attempted rape again, but the women fought enough and screamed loud enough that the neighbors kind of figured it out and got in the middle of it. But he didn't get away unscathed. The girl actually scratched his face up, which should have made it easier for him to get figured out, but it didn't. He was successful again in August 15th of 1989 when he raped a 22-year-old woman. That's right, atta girl. Get him. Get him! Make him fear you. He had another big gap in between the 22-year-old and a 15-year-old girl he saw at the bus shelter that he raped on November 21st of 1989. The next, almost a month and a day after, ladies always have big-ass hairpins and good stabbing weapon if needed. Yeah, that's a very good idea. Except, there are some cases where it's used against them, which is not fun at all. It's not enjoyable. Kind of counterintuitive, if you ask me. A month and a day later from the November rape of the 15-year-old, he raped a 19-year-old woman. And it looks like his last attempt, or last successful attempt, was in May 26th of 1990, when he raped a 19-year-old woman. His undoing, however, is the fact that she was able to vividly recollect or recall what her attacker looked like, and made a composite portrait that was released 2 days later in Toronto and area papers. So, 2 months later, in July, they got so many tips that Bernardo resembled the composite that he was interviewed, and in between that time, from May and September of 1990, when they're trying to figure out who this person was, they had 130 DNA suspect samples. But they got so many tips about Bernardo, they kind of backed up and said, okay, we need to watch this guy. I think this is the guy that it's the problem. So, the big ones that really got him when it came to the reports of him looking like the Scarborough rapist was somebody at a bank employee in June mentioned something to the police as a tip. And then a girl named Tina Smirnis, who was a wife of one of the three brothers, Smirnis brothers, that Bernardo was like really close friends with, said something. She told detectives that Bernardo had, quote unquote, had been called in on a previous rape investigation, which was back in December 1987, but he had never been interviewed. He frequently talked about his sex life to Smirnis and said he liked rough sex. Oh, dumbass. You just sold yourself out. Dumbass. But unfortunately, we know, because of the situations that are going to come up, that didn't... some more stuff's going to happen that's worse. And it's not going to be pretty at all. It's going to be very ugly. And it's going to make you hate Bernardo and Homolka. In November that year, they finally pulled him in for a long interview, and he gave his DNA samples to the detectives. And they went, he said that he knew that he was being investigated, and said, yeah, I admit that I look like the composite. Yep, 87. Yeah, it gets worse. It gets a lot worse. You know it's gonna get worse if I'm covering it. It's always gonna get worse. So yeah, he got pulled in for that. And ended up, getting convicted of that shit. And that's just the known incidents. There are probably more that they didn't pick up or weren't reported. And now, after this is when things get worse. So, we already are aware that he met Karla in 87 and started dating. Unfortunately, she liked him so much, she encouraged his sadistic sexual behavior. Basically was like, yeah, I'm cool with it. Let's keep this going. She even was okay with the fact that he had American Psycho, the book American Psycho, and quote unquote read it as his Bible. Hey, what's up, Jeff? How you doing, man? Oh, there's a lot wrong with her. And now that we've gotten to her part, why don't we go over Karla a little bit? Born in May 4th, 1970. She... Oh, God. She, again, was pretty much a normal teenage girl, a normal woman, until she met Bernardo. The first thing that they did together, did crazy dudes. Yeah, they do, unfortunately. But where they start doing stuff is in the summer of 1990 with, unfortunately, Tammy Homolka, Karla's little sister. Yeah, their first victim together was her sister. Now, this is gonna be really gross, and I'm gonna show you some images that are pretty disgusting. This is what apparently happened. Bernardo spent a lot of time in the Homolka house. They liked him a lot. And even though he was engaged to Karla at the time, he liked to flirt with Tammy. Yeah. he ended up becoming very obsessed with Tammy and would peer into her window and in her room to wank the one-eyed snake. Hi Jen B, welcome to the show. It's good to see ya. Happy that you could hop in. And the worst part, or I guess the best part, fell off my mountain bike on the way home from a friend's and fractured it. Ooh. Oh, dude, I'm sorry. Holy shit. Well, I hope it gets better, man. That really sucks. So hopefully you'll get better soon. But back to the topic at hand. Bernardo became more and more obsessed with Tammy to the point where he would get in her room at night and beat off. What's worse is that Karla helped him do this by breaking the windows so that he can get in. In July, he took Tammy across the border to Mexico. Oh, not Mexico. Across the border somewhere to get beer and go party. And this is when he told Karla that they got plastered and started making out. And that just sealed the shit. So, according to testimony at the trial, he convinced Karla to help him. Bad girl, yes. He convinced Karla to help him get it on with her sister. What she did was she crushed up Valium she'd stolen from her employer, which was at the time the Martindale Animal Clinic, and put it in Tammy's spaghetti sauce. Basically drugged her. She gave it to her sister. Her sister lost consciousness. And, he raped Tammy. While Karla watched. Again. He convinced Karla to help him, and she drugged her sister with Valium that was crushed up in a spaghetti sauce, and watched while Bernardo raped her. Here's where it gets worse. Oh, and apparently, by the way, she's 15 at the time. She's 15. So, here's where it gets even worse. So, 6 months before they got married in 1991, Karla stole some an anesthetic agent called halothane from a clinic that she worked at. And in December, on the 23rd of that year, 1990, 6 months before the wedding again, they gave the sleeping pills to Tammy, who's a 15-year-old, in a rum and eggnog cocktail. So they got her plastered and gave her some really bad drugs. She lost consciousness, and both Karla and Bernardo undressed her. And after they undressed her, Karla applied a halothane-soaked cloth to her sister's nose and mouth. Karla wanted to, quote, unquote, give Tammy's virginity to Bernardo for Christmas. Because Bernardo was disappointed that Karla was not a virgin. Did you hear me right? Karla drugged her sister so that she could give her virginity to her fiancé for Christmas. Because her fiancé, Bernardo, was upset that Karla was not a virgin when they met. Yeah, it gets worse. It gets worse. So, because their parents were asleep upstairs, they took her to Tammy to the basement and videotaped themselves raping her. And during that, she started to puke. And she started choking on her own puke. And even though they tried to revive her and hid the evidence before they called 911, she still died. Yeah, they're horrifying. They're more than horrifying, Fruit Bat. Absolutely. She did die. So let me give you the beat by beat again. They drugged her eggnog that was already laced with rum. She was smothered with a cloth that was soaked in the same shit they drugged her with. Because Karla wanted to give give her sister's virginity to Bernardo in exchange for hers, because she wasn't a virgin. While their parents were upstairs and asleep, they took her down to the basement and videotaped themselves raping her until she started puking and choking on her vomit. So what they did was they decided they were going to try and revive her. Didn't work. They dressed her back up, put her in her bedroom, tried to hide as much evidence as they could, and called 911. And this is what was found when they, by they I mean the professionals at St. Catherine's General Hospital, where she actually died, and never regained consciousness, by the way. So she was completely unconscious. She died, I guess you could say, Breaking Bad style. Except there wasn't a videotaped sexual assault. Yeah, kind of worse, but what they had to deal with and what made it kind of weird, and I'm not happy with anybody because of this, that despite how they were behaving, they were aka they were vacuuming and washing laundry in the middle of the night, and despite a chemical burn on Tammy's face, the coroner and the Homolka family took their version of events as right. Which was basically, she drank too much and choked on her puke. Aha, ha ha, so bad. It's terrible. And I'm going to show you what pissed me off and why I think the parents and the coroner are dumb. Let me show you, and word for the weary, if you do not like seeing things that are kind of graphic, I would turn away for a little bit. This is how she looked. This is how Tammy looked when she died. This is what they found. So in this picture, you can see the chemical burns. You can see the puke in the corner of her mouth, which she choked from. You can see there's been an issue. You can tell something's wrong. And yet, they called this death by intoxication. She was too drunk, and she basically choked on her vomit because she was too drunk. You tell me how the fuck they could think that that was the case with this. Exactly. That's a lot of her face. There's no... It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense how they could consider any other problem here. How could they not think something was wrong here? That there was foul play? These people are incredibly daft or turned a blind eye, and I'm not sure which is worse. Oh, they're all worse. It doesn't matter. And because of this, there were more victims. There were at least three that are big that they had involvement with that has been confirmed. And what's worse, I'm going to go one step worse with this. There's videotapes of Karla wearing her sister's clothing, pretending to be her. Sex tapes. Role-playing sex tapes. They're basically role-playing murdering their sister. Murdering Tammy. That's fucked up. It's fucked up. And the parents are none the wiser. How could you not realize something was wrong? How could you not realize that one of these things just doesn't fit right? I don't know. Okay, well, the next confirmed case that they were involved with, unfortunately, we don't know the name of the girl, but on June 7th of 1991, yeah, it's pretty messed up, Jeff. This is the world that I am very familiar with, and it's very fucked up. And this is one of the more known cases. This one was very well publicized. Karla basically invited a 15-year-old girl that she met at a pet shop a couple years earlier and became friends with. Invited her over for a quote-unquote girls' night out. They went shopping, and they went to eat. And whilst doing so, she gave Jane Doe alcohol laced with a chemical called halcyon. Now, halcyon is a central nervous system depressant or a tranquilizer that is basically like benzos. It's a sedative, a really bad sedative. So she laced her drinks with sedatives. Brought her over to the house. And apparently, while the girl was unconscious, Homolka called Bernardo to tell him she was bringing home his surprise wedding gift. So she met and befriended a 15-year-old girl. Took her for a girls' night out to go shopping and eating. Laced her alcohol with benzos, basically. And called her fiancé to say, "I've got your surprise wedding present." So, they brought her home and once again videotaped themselves raping her. Well, fuck indeed. And in the morning, the girl had no idea. She woke up, was puking, but she didn't have any idea that she was sexually assaulted. She thought it was just because she was the first time she ever drank alcohol. And once again, Because, yes. No, Tammy's virginity was a replacement for Karla's. And that was considered a present for that. This Jane Doe girl was considered a surprise wedding gift. What's worse is that 2 months later, she was brought back to spend the night and was once again drugged. This time, it didn't go so well for her. They ended up having to call 911 because she stopped breathing whilst being raped. And apparently they were able to get her back conscious and breathing. So they called a few minutes after and said everything's fine, she's okay. And the ambulance was recalled and nobody followed up on it. Thankfully, this girl survived. But why in the fuck would you not follow up on a call that a girl stopped breathing? Why would you not follow up on that? Please, dear God, tell me why you wouldn't follow up on that. I don't understand. I'm completely baffled. I'm fucking baffled. I am baffled, bamboozled, and disgusted. And that's just victim number 2 that we are aware of. Victim number 2. Yep. They called for an ambulance because Jane Doe stopped breathing. And then called him back and said everything was fine. And nobody went to check up on it. Nobody. They recalled the ambulance and there was no follow-up. The fuck? Please tell me how the fuck that is. I don't get it. Even worse. The next victim was brought by not even 10 days later. June 15th, 1991. They decided they were going to go through, or Bernardo decided he was going to go through Burlington and steal license plates. And while he was looking for license plates, he noticed a 14-year-old girl had missed curfew because she was attending a friend's wake and was locked out of her house. Bernardo gets out of the car and goes over and say that he, wanted to break into the neighbor's house. Girl didn't care and asked if he had cigarettes. I'm assuming the response was, "Oh yeah, I've got cigarettes in the car." Because Bernardo led her to the car and blindfolded her. Forced her into the car. And drove to Homolka's. Once again, they videotaped them torturing and sexually assaulting this little girl named Leslie Maffei while listening to Bob Marley and David Bowie. Yeah. On tape, Bernardo is heard saying the following: "You're doing a good job, Leslie, a damned good job. The next 2 hours are going to determine what I do to you. Right now, you're scoring perfect." I will repeat. You're doing a damn good job, Leslie. A damn good job. The next 2 hours are going to determine what I do to you. Right now, you're scoring perfect. Throwing up in my mouth, guys. Gross. And it just escalated. It just escalated. Because he started to sodomize her. And she started screaming, asking him to stop. What made it worse, and what sealed her fate, is that Mahaffey told them her blindfold was slipping. Meaning they could probably be identified. Which is a problem. So, the next day, according to Bernardo, Karla fed her a lethal dose of benzos. According to Karla, Bernardo strangled her. No, she's 14. 14-year-old girl. Dead. Still not the same. Still not any better. Still a child. So, Bernardo says that that Karla gave her a lethal dose of benzos. Karla says that Bernardo strangled her. Regardless of what they did, they took Mahaffey's body to the basement and had dinner with the family in that house the day after. And once all the Homolkas left, yes, because her parents locked her out of the house for breaking curfew. Yeah. I'll bet you they loved themselves after that. I bet you they thought that was the best idea ever. But after everybody was gone, Bernardo and Homolka decided that what they were going to do is dismember Mahaffey's body and put it in cement. So Bernardo went and bought a dozen bags of cement from a hardware store the next day and kept the receipts. Dumb. Kept his own receipts. Used his grandfather's circular saw to dismember Mahaffey. Took multiple trips after putting each body part, I think there were 8 in total, box. All of them encased a body part. And they went to Lake Gibson, which was about 11 miles south of the house they were at. And they left him near the shore to be found. It escalated, definitely. Oh, yeah. They cut her fucking body up and put it in cement. What? And this is what Bernardo says about the incident and why they decided to go ahead and just kill her. He said that he wanted to let her go, but because the blindfold fell off, Homolka was concerned that her fiance or her husband would be identified. So she apparently wanted to give her an embolism by putting an air bubble in her bloodstream. So all Karla's fault. It's all Karla's fault. Of course. Duh. Why wouldn't it be? Narcissist. I never do anything wrong. The final victim, as far as I can tell, who died. They were not smart enough to put it in the lake, just left it next to the lake. Yep, they just left it next to the lake, and a fisherman found it and reported it to the police. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. The last one that I can name that, they killed is a girl named Kristen French. After school hours at April 16th, 1992, they decided they were going to go through St. Catherine's and look for little kids getting out of school that they could kidnap and rape. So while they were passing by a Holy Cross Secondary School, they spotted 15-year-old Kristen French. So what they did was they pulled up into a nearby parking lot, got out of the car, and pretended that they needed help finding something. Or getting directions somewhere. And they had a map in hand. As soon as French went to look at the map and help, she was forced into their car with a knife. Homolka subdued her by pulling her hair. And took her for over the Easter weekend. They took her to the home. They've done all this before. And the entire weekend, they videotaped themselves. Torturing, raping, and sodomizing her. Forced her to drink large amounts of alcohol. And do whatever the hell Bernardo wanted. And because they didn't blindfold her, it was pretty easy to guess they were planning on killing her. Now, after going to Easter dinner with the Homolkas, or actually, before they went to Easter dinner, they strangled her to death. Bernardo claims that Homolka beat her with a rubber mallet, and she tried to escape. And then she was strangled with a noose, which was secured to a hope chest. And then they decided they were going to take her 45 minutes from where they found her in Burlington and dump the body naked. And when they found her, apparently, her body was washed and her hair was cut. Apparently because it was a trophy. And what sucks is that French was taking the same route she did every day. Takes about 14 minutes to get home. Take care of her dog. And because she didn't show up, like normal, her parents decided to call the National Regional Police Service, or Niagara Regional Police Service, to go find her body. However, their biggest help was that they found one of French's shoes in the parking lot where she was kidnapped. So, in recap, they went out looking for a victim, found Kristen French walking home from school, tricked her into believing they needed directions, dragged her into a car via night point, took her to the house, and tortured and raped her on camera for 2 days over Easter weekend. And then they strangled her before they went and had Easter dinner with their family. And then what they did was they cut her hair, washed her body, and dumped her. This makes me sick, guys. It makes me very sick. And here's where things start to come into question. Apparently there are several other victims that are possible. Oh, they probably were devastated, Dev. They're probably devastated. There are apparently several other victims that they had. One was in January 12th of 1991. They abducted a girl, took her to the house, raped her while he watched, and then left her in a deserted road near Lake Gibson. She wasn't identified. They just call her January Girl. The next one was apparently really early in the morning, April 6, 1991. Abducted a 14-year-old girl who was basically practicing for the local rowing team. And Karla distracted her while Bernardo dragged her into a bit of shrubbery, raped her. Oh no, he didn't rape her. He just sexually assaulted her. And then when she was removing her clothes, asked her to wait for 5 minutes and then took off. Probably because they were getting caught. The next victim, who apparently is the fourth victim, is Elizabeth Bain, who disappeared on the 19th of June in 1990. She was apparently abducted at the University of Toronto in Scarborough when she went to go check the tennis schedule. And she disappeared. 3 days later, her car was found with a large blood stain in the back seat, which indicates that she's probably dead. I don't think her body was ever found. Unfortunately, somebody was connected to the death of that. I think. Hold on. Yeah. A guy named Robert Baltovich was convicted of this falsely until he was exonerated in September. No. April 22nd of 2008. When Bernardo was finally convicted of that rape and murder. Another supposed attack was in March 29th of 1992, where Bernardo stalked and videotaped two sisters from his car as he was following them to their parents' house. They got the wrong license plate, so didn't help at all. Tried to obviously report it, and that didn't work. However, this is how they were finally caught. They were being questioned for the Scarborough rapist investigation and Tammy Homolka's death, along with the stalking of women before French's death. And 26 months after he gave the DNA sample for the Scarborough rapist case, it matched. and he was put under 24-hour surveillance. They ended up picking up Homolka on February 9th of 1993 and talked to her about Bernardo. She didn't really tell much, but she did admit that he was abusing her, which he was. There are pictures of her with 2 black eyes. Very, very gruesome stuff. Just sad. 26 months. Yep. 26 months after they got his DNA sample. Also, keep in mind that around this time, DNA, anything with DNA evidence was very, very infantile at this point. They didn't have, it was very hard to get those kind of results. It's not like how it is today where you can get a tiny amount of DNA and get a result within a couple of days. It wasn't like that before. But even though she didn't say that her husband was the rapist, she apparently admitted to her aunt and uncle that he was, and said that they were involved in the rape and murder of Mahaffey and French, and all of it was recorded on videotape, which caused them, the law enforcement, to open up Tammy's death again. She was put under 24-hour surveillance. Oh, Jeebus. The day after, or February 14th, 1993, law enforcement finally got a hold of the videotapes and told them about Karla's involvement. Which, unfortunately for her, there was no way she could get complete immunity, which is what she wanted. She and her lawyer wanted complete immunity. They couldn't get it because of her involvement. And they were finally arrested on the 17th of February, 1993, on several charges with an obtained search warrant. Because there wasn't a lot of evidence, they actually had to watch the videotapes at the house. And damage had to be minimum. Couldn't tear down walls or anything. So they searched the house for 71 days. With the only tape being found was of Jane Doe. Which is a segment of Karla performing oral sex on Jane Doe, which was the 14-year-old. On May 5th, Karla finally accepted a plea deal. And of 12 years in prison for her cooperation. And what she told about Bernardo was that there were as many as 30 women that he'd raped, and he was called, quote-unquote, the happy rapist. They finally went to trial in 1995, and on the 1st of September 1995, he was convicted of a lot of offenses, including 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated sexual assault, which means that he got a sentence of life in prison without parole for at least 25 years. and he was also designated as a dangerous offender, so he's unlikely to get released. He's still in prison to this day. Because Karla did a plea bargain that gave her a 12-year sentence for manslaughter, she testified, and unfortunately, the tapes were withheld for 17 months, and a lot of that would not have been agreed to. They would had they seen the tapes of Karla and Bernardo doing what they did, they would have never given her a plea bargain. They had no idea. They had no idea. And what I'm gonna do is, well, just so you know, Karla's been released, and she's been married again. She's had 3 kids, so she's out in the world. She got away with so much crap because evidence was kept away from the prosecution. Which sucks. Now, what I want to do, because I've talked about this several times in other streams, and I figured this would be kind of fun, is I have 2 videos to watch. One is a police interrogation of Bernardo, and one is an interrogation of Karla. I figured this would be interesting. So this is a short one, but I do talk about signs that you look at in interrogation and what police look for when they're doing these things. And I figured it might be kind of fun to try that. So if y'all will oblige me, we're going to go ahead and start with Paul. Let's see how this goes.
Did you kill Elizabeth Bain on June the 19th, 1990?
Well, it's a loaded question. I mean,
first off, here is something that I say multiple times when I talk about pointing out when somebody is lying. He asked if Bernardo killed Elizabeth Bain, which is a yes or no question, and Paul responds with, well, that's a loaded question, and starts explaining shit. That is not the sign of somebody who isn't involved in shit. Yeah, there is videos of that. Video and sound is a bit low. I'm sorry. I'll bring it up. I'll pull it back and I'll bring the desktop audio up.
Did you kill Elizabeth Bain on June the 19th, 1990?
well, it's a loaded question. I mean,
Well, that's a loaded question, is his response. Arms crossed, defensive posture. And yeah, he's looking away a lot. Exactly.
are we going to go back and go through the time sequence of what happened in my life? I mean, I could just give a yes or no answer, but you know, there's a lot of issues about that.
Right.
You know,
This is, again, he's even bringing up the yes or no questions, which is definitely shows that he thinks he's in control. It's a narcissistic response. He looks relaxed. He thinks he's in control. He's moving back and forth a lot. And now he's saying, how far do you want me to go back, which is a diversion. He's diverting away from the question. He's not directly answering the question.
Carlos and my role, who did what, where, when. This is why I said, did you guys, go down there to get a polygraph to see if she was telling the truth? Like, why didn't Bevan do it in the first place? I mean, he's polygraphing everyone with a Camaro. Why would he make a deal with someone and not give them a polygraph?
The other thing that I like to talk about when it comes to, and I see this all the time with YouTubers, is if you have to over-explain yourself when you're answering a question, 9 times out of 10, you're a fucking liar. 9 times out of 10, you're a fucking liar. Period.
It's not incomprehensible to me. Because now my file says her version, and it's a lie. you know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Now I'm sitting with her files, and it's her version. He's pissed that Karla got off. He's pissed. I would be pissed too if I knew my ex-wife's involvement was downplayed and she got away with shit. Absolutely would be pissed. But it's also a show of the narcissism of something that I bring up as well with killer couples. They usually turn on each other. They almost always turn on each other. And this is an example of that. They're usually both narcissistic people, and they don't want to admit their own guilt. They'll pass the blame onto somebody else, which is what he's doing.
I'm not making frivolous points here. I mean, and now you're asking me, after you said Peel Regional said I'm lying about this, and then you're saying I'm lying about my profile, you're saying I'm lying if I'm better or not. Now you're saying, hey, did you kill this person? I mean, well, you're saying I'm lying here, here, and here. I could say, no, I didn't. But...
Again, he's continuing to divert, and he's just rambling about random shit that does not matter. At all. It doesn't matter. It's a simple yes or no question. Did you do it? Did you not do it? If somebody was innocent of a crime, what usually is seen is anger at the situation or some sort of emotional response, and it's usually no. Outright no. And you're offended that you're being asked that question or accused of being involved in something like this.
I mean, you already said I'm lying here with the PO. You're saying.
Okay, I'm not saying anything about who's lying. I'm simply.
And I've given you directions to go to find the truth.
Right.
No one's done that.
And I've asked, and I.
Do you see what you just did? See what you just did? Did you see that? Did you see what this lady over here just did? She looks over and does a circle.
And I've asked, and I.
It's basically, he's going around in circles. He's circling. No shit.
And I've told you that I've done investigations on information that you've told me.
Very easy to spot, yes, Eric.
And as a result of that information, I've been able to verify in my mind where you've told me the truth. So if Peel Region is lying about you or someone else is lying about you, I have no control over that or no.
It goes right to credibility.
Well, absolutely.
And he's trying to kind of buddy up with him, good cop kind of thing, where he wants to get his trust so that he'll tell him more, calm him down. But that's not going to happen.
It does, and that's, I guess, the easy way then is to, if we can go through, we'll answer the questions, and yes, I hope to be able to go through some timeline to identify where you were, what you were doing specifically in relation to this case.
Anyways, I know I'm giving you guys a hard time being argumentative about certain things, but I mean,
Hey, Murder Paula. Again, he's going to start going in circles, and he's diverting, and he's also trying to buddy up with the officers as well. He's like, I know your situation, I understand, but, and then goes in circles again. It's like a dog chasing their tail.
I mean, really, I'm a human being, and when you guys do all these things, I've got to. Anyways, I'll try and truncate it a little bit more. But, anyways, the answer to that is no. But the 800-pound gorilla in the room that's a life 25 sentence.
He finally gave a fucking answer. He gave an answer, but he's gonna elaborate on it. Fuck, I hate that shit. He says no, but... And you can tell by the way he is acting. He's smiling a lot out of nervousness. He's shaking his head. He's rolling his eyes. it's pompous disregard.
You know, it really comes down to credibility,
Right.
and not only credibility, but then again, timeline. I mean, between what Karla's and my roles were respectively, and this and that. The answer is no to that question.
The answer is no to that question. The more hand gestures a person make, the expressions express themselves, the less they have to say. Diversion tactic. Yep, exactly, Eric. Exactly.
Did you have anything to do with her disappearance?
No,
Oh, we finally gave a straight answer.
Did you know Elizabeth Bain?
not that I know of.
Had you ever
What did he say? What was that part?
met her?
I'm gonna answer that with I don't remember. Yes.
Okay, so he says, no, I don't remember. He's not even looking at the guy, he's looking at the table. And he's still shaking his head, like... another thing that has been said is, any normal person... Wait, hold on. Pause on that. Any normal person would have said no, then explain where they were and who they were with. Exactly, Jeff. But he's not doing that.
If I did or I didn't, I don't know. But I know an ex-girlfriend tried to say I might have, but like I said, I don't know.
Another thing that I've noticed or has been pointed out by, Jim Can't Swim and professional body language reading professionals, or people who read body language for a living, or know that, will say that if you're shaking your head while you're answering a question, it's a sign that you know you're lying. No, that's not right. No, that's not right. Even though you're saying what your brain, or you want to say what you think is the right answer to get out of the situation, but you're shaking your head at the same time because you know you're lying.
You obviously are aware of her disappearance.
Sort of.
Do you recall
Sort
when
of.
you became aware of this?
Best I can recollect is after I was in jail. Didn't follow me as much.
I think we're done with this one, but you can tell that by his body language, he's definitely very narcissistic. He's very full of himself, and he's a liar. Very easy to tell. Now, a little bit different. We're gonna look at Karla, and then I'm gonna probably start wrapping it up. We're gonna look at Karla, and we'll wrap it up.
First of all, he killed Leslie because,
They have a... First of all, he killed Leslie because she could identify him. That's where that comes from. She could identify him. She's looking down and away. And she's moving around. Let's back up a little bit so you can kind of see that again.
first of all, he killed Leslie because she could identify him. Okay, the reason why...
Notice when she was doing that, she's moving back and forth slightly, like she's trying to calm herself or reassure herself. She's looking down, and then she finally looks up at them at the end of her sentence. This next one is, okay, the reason why he started bringing them home was because...
started bringing him home was because he wasn't satisfied with just, like, raping them and leaving.
He wasn't just satisfied with, like, raping them and leaving. Notice how the way they are talking and the way they are... their body language is completely different. She's coming off like she's shy, she's scared, and this is probably why she got away with a lot of what she did. She doesn't seem like she's... Yeah, she's definitely being dishonest. She's trying to reassure herself. She's looking down when she answers a lot of questions. Her voice tone fluctuates. The way she's talking, the speed at which she's talking changes. There's just a lot that says something's wrong with this picture.
He wanted to have it over and over and over again. That's why his ultimate fantasy was to have, like, sex slaves. To keep.
Yeah. Now she's looking directly at them. She's responding mostly with her eyes on whoever she's talking to. I think some part of her, from what I can tell from the way she's holding herself or carrying herself, is that she's possibly... She's one of two things. She's either trying to show that she's not okay with these things, or there is some level of shame. But I doubt that last one.
Constant beatings was hell. He wanted to abduct somebody, but there was nobody.
And when you came back, did you have lots of photographs to show people?
Mm-hmm.
Matter of factly, just nods her head. Photographs and video. Oh, absolutely. She's saying whatever to cover her ass. I think part of it's true. There is a bit of truth in it. But she's more what I say that is because she's more direct. She's not flowery with her answers. She's not talking in circles. She's answering the questions directly. So on some level, I do believe she is telling the truth. How much of the truth? Don't know.
Photographs and video.
And were these staged in the sense that he told you you're going to look happy and because you're having a great time, or?
He didn't tell me that, but I knew to smile for a photograph or a video camera.
But I knew to smile and look good for the photograph. And notice, she's talking about being beaten, being abused, which she was. Absolutely was. Let me pull up pictures of that. There's absolutely pictures of her being beat up, or have been being beat up. That, yeah, it's very easy to tell. That's not self-inflicted. That's not. She definitely was beat up. Oh, absolutely beat up. But, like, look at that. That's bad. She was definitely beat up. But does not obfuscate her from what was done.
Hiding abuse. Like, I mean, every time we went to my parents, I was totally unhappy because, I mean, on the way there, Paul would be lecturing me. You know, if you say or do anything to make them think that we're not happy, you know, I'm going to kill you.
You're going to get it. Interesting. Definitely, once again, downplaying her role in these things. Downplaying her enjoyment of these things to try and get the plea, which she successfully did, obviously. And it's, oh god, it's just sick. It makes me sick. It makes me really sick.
I get it. We saw her and pulled into the parking lot and he told me what to do. I didn't even what I was supposed to do was call her over and ask her for directions.
So that's, yeah, playing the helpless victim. That's exactly what I mean, Div. But the thing that I believe her more because she's being very direct with the facts again, and her tone definitely does shift when she's telling the truth and when she's lying. When she's lying, she's softer, and when she's telling the truth, she'll tell she's more direct. She's more confident in what she's saying. Like right before that, you could tell her voice was really, really soft, and then she starts being more direct.
Get out of the mouth and get out of the car and leave the door open, and he was going to come around and then put you in the car. So that's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened. And the stuff she's saying is obviously the events prior to it. I think she's being truthful of is just her involvement of when the stuff is happening that's videotaped is what she's lying about.
How was he supposed to keep her in the car?
He had a knife.
I see, so it was by threat. Okay, and it worked.
Yeah. Sunday came and he decided that it was time to kill her.
Notice that she takes these long pauses, and she's not looking at him. Long pauses before she ends a sentence, especially when it has something to do with someone being killed or someone being raped or somebody being assaulted. She takes these long pauses like she's trying to get her words together. And that I don't know if I see that as lying or being manipulative. I'm not sure.
I had to go to my parents' house. He tied her legs together and handcuffed her hands and tied her the whole chest. She was on her knees. And he put a rope around her neck. And he said to her, he raped her. And no, he didn't rape her right away. He said...
Look at that. She just contradicted herself a little bit. She said he raped her. And she said he didn't immediately. So what's the actual course of events? Her responses are very disjointed with this particular question.
He said something like, do you want to die? And just in the middle of her talking, he strangled her. He just like cut her right off in the middle of her word. He had...
That exactly when she's talking about the surroundings of it, she's dodgy, and then when she's talking about what he did, she's looking directly at the person, and she's very confidently saying, this is what happened. She's thinking what to do, say next, and how to say it, and trying not to portray herself in a negative light. Correct. Exactly what. Yeah. That's exactly what I was getting at as well, Ed. Jeff. It's definitely what I was getting at.
Beat me really badly, and my whole face was black and blue. The police have photographs of it. He used to make me kneel on the floor in the middle of the bedroom and make me stare straight ahead, and he would walk around me in circles and kick me.
And that's an odd way of saying things. Like she's definitely deflecting more blame, trying to make him look worse. Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to look, so I wouldn't know when it was coming. Well, he raped her when I was there, and I think he made me leave twice.
Definitely lied there. Definitely lied. Like the look on her face right here. This face, she's questioning what she's saying. And again, she did some pauses, like she's trying to downplay her involvement and downplay what she did. It's very easy to pick out.
Why do you think he made you mean?
I think one of the reasons that he wanted me to kill the next girl was to make me more involved.
I think the reason why he wanted to make me kill the next girl was so that I was more involved. That's telling. Very telling. Very different ways of communicating. So, that was the videos that I had for you guys. In short, Karla definitely should not have gotten off the way she did. Obviously, should not have. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and she's out and about now. And she's married and has 3 kids. Like, she should be in jail for the rest of her life. And she got away because defense attorneys withheld evidence. Evidence meaning the tapes. Ugh. It's disgusting. But that is all I've got for the Ken and Barbie killers. The Scarborough rapist, the Schoolgirl rapist, Paul Bernardo, and Karla Homolka. Very disgusting cases of people. But I do believe that Karla would not have done any of this stuff on her own. She would not have done any of this on her own had she not met Bernardo. Bernardo was a bad seed, definitely. That's very clear. But her, I don't think so. I think she did it for him and because of his influence. Doesn't obfuscate any of her what she did, but no. Yeah, I would agree, Eric and Dev. Law's really fucked up, and the defender doing that should be ashamed of themselves for sure. Alright, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. This was the 15th episode of Halls of Horror. Thank you for joining me and listening and seeing this graphic content. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that you are safe and enjoyed your Thanksgiving, and sweet nightmares.